Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
You guys are so far away. Come on over. Melissa, go back one seat. Let the four of them take those seats. Go on over. No, stay where you are. There are four beautiful seats right behind the Weitzmans.
Ooh, the hitchhiker.
I'm so glad that I hate to bother everybody. Yeah, there's. Shh.
Rabbi, I really appreciated that you hate to bother anybody.
Yeah, but it didn't work. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
What a wonderful time to be able to come together, to worship together, to celebrate together, to simply be in community. We begin our service tonight on page 128 with Ma Yafeh Hayom. How beautiful, how lovely today is. Shabbat Shalom. Please join us.
Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
We come together as a kahila, a community, but in order to really be a community, we first need to know who else is here. So let's take a minute or two to stand up, to move around, and introduce ourselves to at least 3 people we didn't know when we walked in tonight.
Some kind of Iranian thing.
I almost wrote that. I hate it when you do that.
Lecha.
So now that we sound like a wonderful community, We'll have plenty more time to gather and to talk during the oneg. But if we don't start the service, there will never be an oneg. The Sabbath Queen is getting a little chilly and damp, waiting outside for us to let her in. She's knocking at the door. So let's greet her with Lecha Dodi on page 138. And we'll be singing verses 1 and 9. Please join us.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zechor b'dibur echad ishmi'anu be'gam yuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad v'shem multiferet v'litira lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom, boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam b'simcha ובצהולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
It is always a joy when we have had the pleasure of seeing a child grow up in our congregation, to see them take their place as an adult in our community. And Tilly, it is really with joy that we get to share the bima with you on this Shabbat. So it's my pleasure to invite up Tilly Weitzman in honor of becoming a bat mitzvah, along with her parents, Dan and Randy, and her brother Max, to join us on the bima and to do us the honor of lighting the Shabbat candles. The blessing for the candles can be found on page 120, but first we continue with Shalom Aleichem on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Anachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bokem L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
As the Shabbat candles give us light to all who behold them, as may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Amen.
Way to go.
Beautiful, very well done. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Sheitchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon,
המלכים הקדוש
ברוך
Please rise for the Barhu on page 146.
Baruch et Adonai HaMevoran. Baruch
Adonai
HaMevoran le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated.
And join us on the bottom of page 149. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadata Otan limadata Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu uvkumenu nasiach bekukecha v'nizmach b'divrei toratecha u'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed ki hei chayenu ve'oreh yameinu uvahe nege yomam v'layla nege yomam v'layla ve'ahava cha'a tasir Mimeinu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohei Amo Yisrael Ohei Amo Yisrael Amen Shema
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed
We continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 154. Please join us.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We continue together on the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילה, אוסף אלה, נורא תהילה, אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, אוקיי היה לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. איי די 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 ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We continue on page 160.
Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Kamideinu malkeinu v'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim.
It is my pleasure to invite up all of the B'nai Mitzvah students to join us on the Bima, both the students in the youth program and the adult program.
Dancing clowns.
Are invited to join us on the Bima. Woo. That was impressive. As we continue on page 162.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please rise for the tefillah on page 164.
Adonai sefatai titachu fi agidei latecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Hashtevot b'imahot, U'mevii ge'ula b'nei b'neihem, Le'ma'an shemo be'ahavat, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Elam Adonai,
continue praying privately from page 172 through 180, either standing or sitting as is your custom.
Adonai, Suri, Suri Begali, Adonai, Suri, Adonai, Suri Begali. Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the word of my mouth, meditations of my heart, be kind. Be true, may they be acceptable to you, oh my rock and my redeemer. Yehi rason imrefi vehegyo lipi. Yehi Leranson imrefi vegio libi lefanecha.
Our thoughts and prayers now turn to those in our lives and those in the world who are in need of a refuah shlema, a complete healing of body and spirit. So let's take a moment to hold them in our hearts, to think of them, to think of the ways that we could help ease their burdens in this time. Ways beyond prayer. In what ways can we reach out to them, to comfort them, to make them feel less alone? We hold them in our hearts as we pray a prayer for healing that can be found in our Shabbat flyers.
Mi sheberach avoteinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. Mi sheberach imoteinu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer.
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 Hear our
Hear our prayer. And bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with a vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mi sheberach avoteinu, mi sheberach imoteinu.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. And bless us as well.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're just going to wait a second for the lights to warm up. The magic, yes. So while we're waiting for that, does anyone know what this week's Torah portion is? Oh, you do? Tilly, come tell us. What is this week's Torah portion? Parashat Toldot. Absolutely right.
Complete sentences, too.
Yes, I was impressed. And it's about to be on the screen. So in Parashat Toldot, we are still early in the book of Genesis. And pop quiz for the congregation, who knows what the word Toldot means? Anyone? Not as, I hear a murmur. Oh, Judy, what does it mean? It does. Toldot means generations. There it is. So it means generations, and when we see the word Toldot in the Torah, it usually means we are about to be treated to a genealogy. The first genealogy we see is in chapter 2, where we learn the genealogy of the heavens and the earth, almost as though they are, well, not almost. The heavens and the earth are alive, or filled with life, but they are seen almost as characters in the Torah, with us learning the story of creation. And then we hear the genealogies through the matriarchs and the patriarchs. And who knows, what is the purpose of the genealogies in Genesis? Anyone want to try? It's a timid crowd today. It is very quiet all of a sudden. So the genealogies help us understand the world that our ancestors lived in. They would look at the genealogies as the origin stories of different cities, different tribes, different areas of the land, just not only the land of Eretz Yisrael, but also the land around them. And so when we look at the genealogies in the book of Genesis, we are reading not just about the people themselves, we're really reading about kind of the nation states or the communities that come after them. We're learning about why certain groups of people get along, why certain people hate each other, and it all stems back to the origin stories with the genealogy. So here we have actually the fourth genealogy in the Torah, or not the fourth, but I'll back up for the ones that are relevant. This is the third genealogy that we see in the story of Abraham's family. We see a genealogy with Abraham at the end of last week's Torah portion, Chaye Sarah. We see Esau's genealogy. And then in this genealogy, this is Ve'ela Tolot Yitzhak. This is supposed to be the genealogy of Isaac. Okay, sorry, the pictures they're all good now. So, Blair, can you be the narrator of the Torah for this?
This is kind of nice. I get to be Vanna White tonight.
Exactly.
And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac.
Stop right there. Anything strange about this genealogy? Well, that's not strange for the Bible. But yes, no, it does have moms in some of them. In what direction does a genealogy usually flow? Forward, right? Like, this is Julianne. Julianne begat Ari and Jordana, and Ari and Jordana begat, not together and not yet, but it usually starts in one direction and goes downwards through the lines. So Blair, could you read this again?
Not at the moment.
There we go.
And Isaac was 40 years old.
No, read the verse 19 again.
Oh, okay. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac.
Okay, what is weird about this genealogy? Is this the genealogy of Isaac? No. Even in Isaac's own genealogy, he gets kind of pushed to the side, and this is the genealogy suddenly of Abraham again. Now you could keep going.
Okay. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah for his wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister to Laban, the Aramean. And I got to tell you, this is really similar to the way a lot of modern genealogists write as well. It is not linear. Yes.
Okay, so in the Torah, usually it's pretty linear. So what is wrong with these two verses? Feel free to raise your hand. Vanna will come over. She'll bring you the microphone. Right next to him is the lovely Judy.
They have nothing to do with Isaac. They have to do with his wife.
Right. First we learn about his dad, then we learn about his wife, and what aren't we learning about? Isaac. Or his children. So it's starting out by saying this is the genealogy of Isaac. You know, Isaac who was Abraham's kid, Isaac who married Rebekah, and Rebekah was from over there. So Isaac, in the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he kind of gets a little lost in the story. What we see him as more of is a conduit of connecting the generations of Abraham to Jacob. Let's keep going. So far, Isaac's genealogy tells us that he doesn't have children. Blair, you're doing such a lovely job.
And the Lord said to her.
Ooh, wait.
Whoop.
Hold on.
I'm just reading what's in.
No, my fault, my problem. There we are.
There we go. And Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. And the children struggled together inside her, and she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of the Lord.
Okay, so what do we learn about the family in these two verses? Do we learn nothing? Nothing interesting about them? I'll tell you what's interesting. So first of all, again, it's a very strange way to have a genealogy saying this is the genealogy of Isaac. Isaac didn't have any kids. So then he went to God to ask for them. So Isaac goes and intercedes on behalf of Rebekah. Rebekah is having a terrible pregnancy, and instead of going back to her husband to say, hey, hubby, can you go back and talk to that God of yours who got me pregnant? Can you please go see what's going on? Rebekah decides to take matters into her own hands. And again, we see Isaac a little sidelined now by his wife, and it's really the generations go Abraham, Rebekah, to Jacob. Isaac is there, he does his job, but he's not really an active player in his own story or in his own family's story. And it's striking that we see Rebekah claiming her voice to be able to go and talk to God. We see that she really is truly a matriarch. She is the head of the family in a sense. But now things start getting a little weird. So when she talks to God, God gives her a prophecy. And this is the prophecy that we get. Oh, I think for God we need a different voice.
Oh.
Melissa, could you be God? Oh, did someone else want to be God? Oh, I'm sorry. You know, she terrifies me as God. Melissa's a little safer. The world is chaotic enough.
When she's my age, she can be God. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples shall be separated from your bowels.
Let's go for womb rather than bowels.
All right.
We know a little
Separated
bit more
from your
about science. Nothing's going on in the bowels.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger.
Who is God talking about? It works better when you talk into the microphone.
Jacob and Esau.
This is Jacob and Esau, and this is a prophecy. But what is God telling her? Is God telling her that your boys aren't going to get along?
Yes.
No, look at the prophecy. There are 2 nations in your womb. Not that there are 2 children in your womb, not there are 2 sons in your womb. There are 2 nations in your womb and 2 peoples. Peoples, again, like nation, not like a person, but a nation like the National Bank of Israel is called Bank Leumi. Leumi means national, and it is actually the word that's used here. So when it says people here, it means like a nation of people. So in 2 different ways, God is warning Rebekah that it's not simply 2 babies that are in your womb. There are 2 separate nations that are at war inside of your womb right now. If you heard that from God, what would you do? Scream is a good reaction. Would you be afraid?
Yeah.
So Rebekah, oddly, is not afraid. In fact, she's somewhat empowered by this. Yeah. I'm sorry, Cantor.
You actually don't have something to say.
Now, this may have something to do with translation, but I think there's, even though there is a struggle going on inside of her, the way that this particular thing is translated, it's actually, to my mind, a generous reading is fairly neutral.
In what part's neutral?
It says, there are 2 nations, they're going to be separated, one's going to be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger, but neither of those last two statements, in my mind, always devolve into conflict or struggle. So that maybe Rebekah feels a responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen.
So God is telling her, maybe giving her a little helpful hint about how to do good parenting. If only the Bible wasn't a textbook in bad parenting. No, I like your read. I think your interpretation is good. There's nothing inherently good or bad about it. It's simply saying, look, Rebekah, it's like you're giving birth to England and France. They don't have to be fighting each other. One may have a better GDP than the other, but they're both going to be nations. Is that kind of how you're reading it? Right. You don't have a brother, do you? It's not the same. It is not the same. So unfortunately, things devolve. So let's go a little bit further and let's look and see what happens. So let's look at this genealogy. Unfortunately, this genealogy doesn't have women in it, but I didn't have the energy to actually create a new one. So we're using this one. So from this we see that there is the line of Terah. Terach is Abraham's father. He's also the father of Haran. And Abraham, so Lot, you guys will remember Lot, Sodom and Gomorrah, big story. So Lot is Abraham's nephew. He goes and lives with Abraham and Sarah for a while. Abraham has how many sons? 2. He has 2 sons. He has Isaac and Ishmael. And then Isaac also has 2 sons, and we have Jacob and Esau. So what you don't see on this is because you don't see Ishmael. Who does Ishmael become the father of? Remember how I said at the beginning, these are origin stories. These help us understand the regions, the nations, the peoples that live in the Middle East. Ishmael becomes the father of the Arab people. So both in Jewish and in Islamic teachings, Ishmael becomes the father of, like, broadly speaking, the Arab peoples. And then Isaac has 2 sons. Jacob gets a new name. His new name is, our congregation is, the Jews' real name is Israel. So we become Israel, and Esau becomes Edom. Or Esau, the descendants of Esau become the Edom or the Edomites. And so are the Edomites friendly with the Jews? No, we have a bad history. We don't get along very well with them. And then Esau not only becomes the father of the Edomites, Esau marries, because they have a little problem with intramarriage, and our ancestors did. He marries his first cousin. Jacob marries 4 of his first cousins. We all have problems here. But Esau marries one of Ishmael's daughter. And so while Ishmael's children become the father of the Arab nations, Edom has a slightly different destiny. So, would you like to read? Yeah. Okay. So if you could read that first paragraph about who is Esau and Edom elsewhere in the Hebrew Bible.
Okay. In the Hebrew Bible, Edom has a rich series of associations from sibling rivalry to warring opponent, treacherous kindred, and perhaps finally to reconciled brothers. That's a lot of big words.
So we have this long history that we see in Genesis. We see it in Numbers, Jeremiah, and in Ezekiel, that the relationship between the descendants of Jacob and the descendants of Esau continue to have problems, not only as siblings, but as warring nations. So imagine that you're reading the Bible, say 500 years or so after Jacob and Esau are alive. The Torah story then explains for us why don't we get along with the Edomites. Let's go a little bit further into who the Edomites are. Who else would like to read? Go for it. We have a volunteer right here.
Just read the first.
Yeah, just keep reading. Read till I tell you to
Traditional
stop.
enemies of the Israelites, the Edomites were the descendants of
Esau. It's a hard one.
Esau, who often battled the Jewish nation. Edom was in southeast Palestine, stretched from the Red Sea to the Eilat to the Dead Sea, and encompassed some of Israel's most fertile land. The Edomites attacked Israel under Saul's rulership. King David would later defeat the rogue nation, annexing their land. At the fall of the first temple, the Edomites attacked Judah and looted the temple, accelerating its destruction. The Edomites were later forcibly converted into Judaism.
By John Hyrcanus.
By John Hyrcanus, and then became an active part of the Jewish people. Famous Edomites included Herod, who built the second temple.
Okay, so John Hyrcanus, you may not recognize him by his name because it's a pretty assimilated name. This is actually the descendant of Mattathias, the one who started the Hanukkah rebellion because he didn't like that the Jews were assimilating into Roman culture. And here we have his grandson, John Hyrcanus. Is that a nice Jewish name? Not so much. His descendants have now become as assimilated as the people that he was fighting against. So where do the Edomites reside? Southern Israel. Do we know anyone else from southern Israel? No one? No one's read a paper in the last month? So, according to our tradition, while Esau becomes the father of the Arab nations, Edom becomes the father of the Palestinians. So clearly the Palestinians are also related to Ishmael, to all of the Arab people, but more specifically, what we see is the origin story in this week's Torah portion of Toldot, the beginning of the fight between us and our cousins, between the descendants of Jacob and the descendants of Esau. It's a painful story. It's one that is very complicated in the Torah. It's one that begins before Jacob and Esau are even born. The prophecy comes from in the womb that the two will be different nations. Okay, raise your hand if you have brothers. Would you like to serve your brother? No, that would be I'm the youngest of four. I have two older brothers. If somebody had said my prophecy was to serve my brothers, I would have moved to another country. I would have just gone as far and fast as I can. And so we see this painful relationship. We see more recently that science kind of backs up this belief that the Jews and the Palestinians are cousins with each other. Studies in the last decade have shown that Jews and Arabs are all really children of the house of Abraham, says Harry Oster, the director of Human Genetics Program at NYU School of Medicine, an author of the new study by an international team of researchers in the United States and in Israel. He says, and all have preserved their Middle Eastern genetic roots over 4,000 years. The closest genetic neighbors to most Jewish groups were the Palestinians, the Israeli Bedouins, and the Druze, in addition to the Southern Europeans, including the Cypriots, as Oster and, I can't say his name, Skorecki, wrote in a review of their findings that they co-authored in the Journal of Human Genetics in October 2012. In other words, our Bible stories are pretty accurate when it's talking about our genealogy and about our origin story, that is the land that we come from, and that is also the land that our cousins come from. So let's look at the next question. And I'm sure that this is something that many of us have thought many, many times over the last month. Is reconciliation possible? Is it possible for us to have Blair's very optimistic viewpoint of that perhaps it could be two nations side by side and not one beneath the other? So let's look and see what the Torah says. If we were to fast forward in the book of Genesis, and we see an Esau and a Jacob as adults, many, many, many years later, they're married, they have children, they have grandchildren, they have both become very wealthy, and they have both grown up far away from each other, completely separate from each other. And we see Jacob and Esau coming together. Both are fearful. They both have their armies with them because they're not sure what their brother is going to do to them. And when Esau finally sees his twin, Esau ran to greet him. He embraced him, and falling on his neck, he kissed him, and they wept. That after so many years of disengagement from each other, so many years, and think about it, I mean, I think we've all had disagreements or feuds with people, either friends or relatives that have gone a long time, and the longer it goes on, sometimes in our head, the thing we fought about becomes bigger and bigger. So you can only imagine the anxiety and the fear that they have when they greet each other, and yet when they see each other's face, they remember that they're brothers. And then there was a teaching from Rabbi Naftali Tzvi that I thought was very optimistic. He looks at the verse and says, and they wept. And he notes, both of them wept. This teaches us that at that moment, love for Esau stirred in Jacob too. And so it is down the generations. When the descendants of Esau are inspired by a pure spirit to recognize the descendants of Israel and their qualities, then we too are stimulated to recognize Esau, for he is our brother. Thus Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi truly loved the Emperor Antonius, and there are many more such examples. Emperor Antonius being from Rome, and later the Edomites become a metaphor for Rome as this government that tries to dominate us. And so Rabbi Naphtali is telling us that if even Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the head of the Jews of the land of Israel, could care for the Emperor Antonius, it gives us hope that perhaps we too can bridge some of our differences. So I'm curious to hear from you. What do you think are some of the things that would be needed for us someday to come into each other's arms and to coexist? Wait, Julie's going to come to you. Or Cantor's going to come to you, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that we always thought for so many years, so many generations, that Egypt and Israel could not come to be friends. So there is that hope, I think, for Palestinians and the Jews too.
Right, and even now, even in the midst of what's going on, so far the peace between Israel and Egypt is held. I think that's a really good, it's a good thing for us to hold on to in the middle of what's happening. How about anyone else? Oop, you get to go, see, this is how it always happens. You have to popcorn back and forth.
Should have worn my pedometer.
No, right back there.
So sorry. Listening and hearing each other's stories.
And there are organizations within Israel where people, both Palestinian and Jews who have lost loved ones in acts of terror and violence, listen to each other's stories and come together to try to prevent others from suffering the same. Absolutely. You're right in the middle. Oh.
Thank you. I'm very thankful.
Close to your mouth.
I know, I was saying thank you.
Oh.
I think that, like, to get people that are, like, because I feel like no matter what, people are always going to think of, hey, like, oh, they're probably lying. They're probably being really dramatic if they said stories. And I think they need something, like, not, like, to seem, like, really pessimistic, but they need something, like, really drastic to happen to, like, both of them so they could see, like, that they're both people. It would need something, like, really drastic and, like, big. You need something really big that they need to fight for together. Because if they were fighting apart on something, like if they were fighting apart on that something, then it would be like it would make it worse.
But yeah, I think you're right. They need to see each other first as people. That there becomes, in wartime, a dehumanization of the other. Somebody right in the middle had his hand up. Right in exactly the middle, Cantor.
This is a test. This is only a test. Boom, boom.
Unfortunately, I think it's going to take amnesia on both sides.
Say that again?
I think it's going to take a bit of amnesia on both sides.
Yeah.
That part of the world, they know how to hold a grudge. I mean, Sunnis and Shiites are going over 700 years worth.
We're not so bad at holding a grudge. Passover, we're still complaining about being slaves in Egypt. You're absolutely, I mean, we are Middle Eastern people.
And we're still complaining about the food.
Yes. No, but I think you're right. There has to be some deliberate amnesia to be willing to say, I'm going to put away a little bit of my pain, a little bit of my memory, so that I could look forward. And that's not an easy thing to do. Not at all. Any last comment? Oh, right, second to last comment.
We need to make sure that that part of the world is repaired. Like houses are rebuilt, hospitals are rebuilt, and it has to be both sides need to build them in common.
I think you're absolutely right. One of the things that I respected profoundly about Yitzhak Rabin of blessed memory is that when he became prime minister for the last time and he was working on the peace accords, one of the things that he also did was lobby the U.S. government for funding for the West Bank and for Gaza, because he knew that there had to be a middle class, that without there being jobs and economics, as long as there was not economic stability, there would be revolutions. And that's part of what Hamas has done in Gaza. It's ensured that they're guaranteed that there will be poverty and misery. And when people have nothing left to lose, they're willing to do outrageous things. And in order for there to be peace, there has to be real hope. Last comment.
I think they need what the brothers had, which was some time away from their fight. Basically, that's how they got the amnesia, is to stop fighting for a minute and forget why they were fighting.
Yeah. Sometimes both time and distance is what we need in order to reconcile and heal. One of the things that I've tried to do over the last, what is it now, like 47 days since the war has begun, is to try to look for points of light in stories. And there are stories. If you read the Times of Israel, you'll see that there are still Jewish and Palestinian organizations that are getting together to try to work for the common good, to still see the humanity in each other. And so I wanted to highlight tonight 3 organizations that I think are working extremely hard to make sure that the bridges between the Palestinians and the Jews are not burned down. The first is IRAC, the Israel Religious Action Center. Even as we look at the war, we have an unprecedented situation in Israel where there's a questioning of the government in power during wartime. That's not something that we normally see. The Times of Israel, there was a poll released yesterday. They actually took a popularity poll, or like a poll of the Israeli people yesterday, which they've never done during wartime, looking at support for the prime minister. There's very little support for the prime minister right now. That within Israel, they're looking at how can they change the dynamic to make things different. And the Israel Religious Action Center is one of those very important organizations in Israel. It's a reform movement organization that fights for civil rights and human rights for all Israelis. Another important organization is one that's based out of San Francisco. It was started by the Bay Area Jewish community, and it's called the New Israel Fund. And the New Israel Fund tries to take our values and to support organizations within Israel that fights for women's rights, for coexistence, for equality. And right now, they are doing a campaign for humanitarian aid and basic needs, safeguarding human and civil rights, bolstering Jewish-Arab relations, and providing an alternative vision for Israel's future. So they're an NGO, a non-governmental organization within Israel that is trying to create a different opportunity for Arabs and Jews to live together. And lastly, I think this is an incredibly important organization. It's called Seeds of Peace. And Seeds of Peace tries to help young people, people in high school and college, Jews and Palestinians, to get to know each other as human beings. They are seeds of peace because it's not going to change the situation overnight, but it is the effort to try to grow into the future a different reality where perhaps our children can forgive each other, where our children can see each other as cousins, as family, and do something different. They've been, I think 1983 may have been when they started, and are you able, Ryan, you're not able to make that bigger, are you? So, the writing on the bottom and off to the right, you want to make that bigger. So far they're holding firm, Seeds for Peace. You know, whenever you have organizations that are based on coexistence, when something like this happens, you're fearful that it might fall apart. So far as they know so far, it says, during these devastating days, we've heard many heart-wrenching stories from our community on the ground in Israel and Palestine. And as far as we know, all of our seeds, meaning all the children, are still alive, though many have lost family and friends, and some have loved ones being held hostage. Others are texting us from the rubble of their destroyed homes. They are shaken and suffering, but they are not giving up. In the face of devastating violence, they are leading search and rescue missions, organizing aid campaigns, providing mental health support, advocating for equality, and assisting with diplomatic efforts. They are mobilizing for the return of hostages to Israel and calling for the protection of civilian life in Gaza. And they are bringing their voices to the international media. In times like right now, it's important to look for the light. It's important to continue to look for hope and for the possibility of a better future. We are an optimistic people. We are realistic, but we are ever optimistic. And if we weren't, we wouldn't still be here. To be Jewish in a world that doesn't always like Jews is an act of optimism that we have a place to exist. And I hope that our optimism for a world that is filled with peace, where brothers and sisters can come together, is one that we'll see soon and in our time. And so I want to close with a different prophecy, not the prophecy that God gave to Rebekah, but a prophecy, a prophecy that God gave to the prophet Micah. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. And nation shall not lift up sword against nation, nor shall they learn war any more. But they shall sit every person under their vine and under their fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. For the mouth of the Eternal of hosts has spoken it. For let all people walk, everyone, in the name of their God, and we will walk in the name of the Eternal our God, forever and ever. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May this be God's will. So, thank you. Shabbat Shalom. I hope that gives you a bit of something to think about on the Shabbat, a little optimism to reach and to work for. And now it's my pleasure to invite up the president of our congregation, Jay Shanier, for some Shabbat greetings.
Shabbat Shalom. I have a few announcements, but first I want to thank Michael and Cantor Steinberg. Cantor Steinberg, you got your steps in today. I did. So that's a good thing. And Vic's or Gunther's? Gunther's. And thank you, Rabbi, for that. We need hope, always. So first of all, Tilly, congratulations and Mazel Tov and good luck tomorrow. And Randy and Dan, congratulations. A milestone. In the midst of everything, we have to enjoy where we can, and our life cycle events go on. Tomorrow at 9:30 a.m., weekly Torah study, and it's both in person and in Zoom. And then the Shabbat service and Bat Mitzvah starts at 10:30. We also have, as many of you know, we have 2 searches going on for individuals to come help lead our congregation. One for a new cantor, because Cantor Steinberg is leaving us and retiring. Not leaving us, leaving, but we will miss her. If anyone wants to practice taking a mic around, we can do that. And we're also, after next June, we'll be looking for a new educator or director of lifelong learning. So we have focus groups for that. This on November 19th, Sunday, and it's at 10:30 a.m. So I would encourage people to come. This is very important for us to be able to relay to the individuals that we're interviewing and those who eventually will take those positions, what the congregation thinks are the important principles of those 2 jobs. Also, we're asking you if you need Hanukkah presents, visit the Jonas Goldman Judaica gift shop. That'll be open this Sunday as well from 10 to 1. Our Thanksgiving hours, Wednesday the office will close at noon, Thursday the office will be closed. Registration is now open for Stars and S'mores, which is CBI's biennial intergenerational members retreat, April 5th through 7th, and that's at Camp Newman, correct? I think we'll be going. We're excited about it. So, and Cantor and Rabbi will both be there, so we'll have to think about whether we do want to go or not. But we will be there. We will be there. Yeah, you're going. Okay. I am listening now. No, good. And just asking you all to visit the CBI website because it has all of our event calendar information there. With that, Shabbat Shalom. Sorry, I apologize. I was just saying if you remembered. Let me ask all of our board members and committee chairs to stand and introduce yourselves. Go ahead. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I got that one.
I'm Nita Davidson, and I coordinate the Shamasim, making sure everyone feels comfortable, welcomed.
Nita, if I wanted to be a shamus, should I come up and talk to you?
You absolutely should. I'll be at the ONIG, and we can talk. We can talk. You don't have to do it that often. I mean, it can be once a month. It can be once every 3 months. So come and talk.
But the commitment is for the rest of your life, right? Josh?
Josh Mastronardi, immediate past president.
Margaret?
Margaret Gladstein, vice president of administration.
Sandy Lee, representative of the Women of B'nai Israel.
Judy Emick Leatherwood, chair of the music committee, scheduler of Torah chanters on non-B'nai Mitzvah weekends, and the choir wrangler, that's it.
Davida Levin Robinson, VP of membership.
Great. And I do want to invite everyone to the ONIG, and if you have questions, there are many of us who can help out. Yeah, I know. There are many of us who can help out to answer those questions. So would you like to introduce your family to us? I hear there's about 120 people here for you.
Okay, everyone please stand up if you're in my family. Okay. This is my dad, Dan, and
Some of you not sure until
this is my parents, Dan and Randy. This is my grandma, Phyllis. This is my brother, Max. This is my grandma, Susan, and Poppy, Aaron. This is my cousin, Gary. This is my Aunt Tootie, my Uncle Brian, my Aunt Debbie, Nanny, my cousin, Fern, Seth, and Adam. And then these are my cousins, Roz and Don, Jason and his daughter, Maddie, Leora and Mark, and my cousins, Larry and Deb, and Marilyn.
Welcome. Please be seated.
I tried my best.
Good job.
Well done. And Mazel Tov, and welcome to all of you, especially those who have come from out of state to be with us today. We're ready. We continue with our concluding prayers, beginning with the Aleinu, which can be found on the bottom half of page 586. It's my pleasure to invite up all of our B'nai Mitzvah students once again. Please rise.
Including adult B'nai Mitzvah.
We know who you are.
We do. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'teit gedula le'otzer b'reshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem,
גור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא,
שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו בסולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת עינות, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated.
Our thoughts now turn to loved ones who are no longer with us, and we recall our loved ones who passed away at this time in years past. We remember Carol Edelman, Larry Anapolsky, Lucy Bancroft, Felix Berenberg, Rosalind Berkman, Pearl Berman, Robert Karras, Rose Cohn, Samuel Kroc, Joseph Deitel, Morris Deitel, Belle Dorenfeld, Bill Dunning, Leanne Duran, Jesse Fabish, Rabbi Joseph Friedman, Willard Goldboss, Janet Green, Gerald Harris, Ty Higgins, Donald Kahn, Sidney Cash, Shirley Laxer, Lillian Cohen Metz Levine, Virginia Ruth Levine, Sherry Lifton, Ann Lindgren, Sarah London, Karen Mahoney, Arthur Mendick, Jacob Mizrahi, Nancy Molander Price, Marilyn Moon, Kitty Rabinowitz, Frank Rudnick, Arthur Samuels, Bess Sibner, Samuel Silver, Min Silverman, Isadore Smith, Sandy Steinberg, Alan Strauss, and Louisa Wasserman. If there are any names that anyone would like to add to the Kaddish list tonight, please feel free to call those names aloud as my gaze meets yours. If you are saying Kaddish for a loved one tonight, I'd like to invite you to please stand. And if the congregation can please join me in these words of comfort. Hamakom yenechem etchem betok sha'ar avlei Tzion v'Yushalayim. May God comfort you amongst the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We rise to show comfort to those who grieve as we continue together on page 598. Yitkadal yitkadash shmei rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei, be'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'yomechon, v'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'mei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, V'et hadar, v'et halev, v'et halal, shemei tekudisha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tishbachata v'nechamata. Dami ran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'marmav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. Michael, what words of comfort do you, or what, not words, what music of comfort do you have for us tonight? That's you.
Uh-oh. That was a long pause.
Yes, it was.
Well, I was thinking about the sermon that Rabbi gave about siblings and the rivalries that they sometimes have. And sometimes it's caused because one sibling is envious of the other one. One seems more successful, or that they're luckier in some kind of a way. But we always have to remember that family is family, and ultimately you need to think about what you get from your siblings and from your friends, even when they may not have accomplished all the objective things that they wanted to in their life. So this is a song that Bette Midler sang in a movie many years ago. It's about two friends, really. It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strain. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be. And I can fly higher than an eagle, for you are the wind beneath my wing. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth, of course I do. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be. And I can fly higher than an eagle, for you are the wind beneath my wing.
We conclude the service with the Kiddush and the Motzi. Afterwards, everyone is invited to join us in the wonderful oneg that is awaiting us. Where's Ryan? Oh, it is in the social hall? In the social hall. The Kiddush can be found on page 123. Ryan, could you get us some grape juice that doesn't have wax in it? Thanks.
Oh, and you poured the. You're still ready? You should hold it so it's stronger. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotov v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'bratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maaseh bereishit ki hu yom tekilah lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'charta v'tanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodeshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat Amen L'chaim u'shalom
Rachamim. Down the hatch.
It's a new stunt challah.
This is a stunt challah, not for eating, but for blessing. So this is so that if I have, I don't, but if I were to have germs on my hands or on Tilly's or Cantor's or Michael's, you would not have to ingest it. So there will be a lovely, fresh, sliced challah awaiting you at the even lovelier oneg.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Motzi